Think about an incredibly ordinary routine for a second, like walking into a grocery store. You grab a basket, you wander the aisles, pick items off the shelves, put them in your trolley, pay, and you leave, right? It is so utterly mundane, it barely even registers. But here's the kicker. This completely unremarkable act is actually a deeply ingrained behavioral hack. Ever since Piggly Wiggly revolutionized shopping way back in 1916, this mental model has become so pervasive and so baked into our brains that we literally cannot conceive of shopping any other way. Well, in this explainer, we're going to challenge our unquestioned mental models, not about groceries, but about how we build complex, high-stakes products. To really break those mental models, I want to pose a question that might seem completely absurd at first glance. What does a 1924 weaving loom have to do with the safety of modern medical software? Seriously, how on earth does a dusty, mechanical machine from a century ago dictate how modern software engineers write the actual code that keeps patients alive? As you'll see, the connection between physical manufacturing and digital software development is actually one of the most fascinating evolutionary leaps in modern industry. Okay, let's dive into this. The story begins long before the era of computers. Back in 1890, a man named Sakichi Toyota invented a wooden hand loom, mostly because he was determined to ease his mother's countless hours of grueling work. But the real breakthrough? That happened in 1924 with the Type G automatic loom. This machine had a special, totally game-changing feature. It would automatically stop the moment a thread broke, preventing defective fabric from being woven. That incredibly simple concept, stopping a process to prevent a defect, laid the absolute foundation for the Toyota production system in 1948. And today, that exact same philosophy has evolved into the lean, agile methods that modern software teams rely on to code safely and efficiently. All right, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. From looms to software. 2. Jidoka, the human touch. 3. Empowering the software team. 4. Building quality into code. And 5. Overcoming the chaos myth. Section 1. From looms to software, the roots of lean agile. To really get this, we need to translate the physical production line into a digital one. Now, the absolute core of lean manufacturing is the elimination of waste, or muda. On a physical factory floor, waste is obvious, right? It's piles of excess inventory, broken parts sitting in a bin, workers just standing around waiting for a machine. But what does waste look like in an invisible digital workspace? And this brilliantly illustrates that exact shift. In lean agile software development, physical inventory perfectly translates to unmerged code, or incomplete features just sitting in a backlog gathering digital dust. Broken parts? Well, those translate to software bugs. And the physical waiting around becomes the massive, mind-numbing waste of task switching, where developers are forced to jump between multiple uncoordinated projects. Eliminating these digital wastes is literally the foundation of modern software efficiency. Moving on to Section 2, Jidoka, the human touch, building quality at the source. So this is the core philosophy that originated at Toyota specifically to solve these exact problems of waste and defects. Remember that 1924 Type G loom that stopped when a thread broke? That right there is the essence of Jidoka, which translates nicely to automation with a human touch. At its absolute core, Jidoka is now building quality into the production process rather than just, relying on some inspector to catch errors at the very end of the line. But here is the critical part. Jidoka absolutely requires empowering the frontline workers. It gives operators the authority to pull a physical cord or push a button and halt the entire production line the very moment they detect an abnormality. It ensures that issues are addressed at the source, instantly. Now, granting this level of authority requires massive trust, and it's encapsulated perfectly in the Japanese phrase, monozukuri is hitozukuri. Making things is about making people. The logic here is incredibly profound. You simply cannot build high-quality products without first developing, trusting, and respecting the actual people who make them. Think about it. If a worker feels their job is just a mindless grind, their morale drops and the product's quality is going to suffer, for sure. But if they are trusted to stop a multi-million-dollar assembly line just to fix a problem, they take profound, genuine ownership of their work. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds into empowering the software team. Lean principles in the digital age. Taking that deep respect from the factory floor and bringing it into the digital age, lean software development revolves around these 7 core principles. We've talked about eliminating waste. We also have amplifying learning, deciding as late as possible to stay flexible, delivering fast, building quality in, and seeing the whole system. But I want to put a massive spotlight on step number 5 here, empowering the team. Actually, without this step, the rest of the framework completely collapses. Just as a factory worker needs the power to stop the line, a software developer needs the true autonomy to flag bad code, alter a failing process, and even push back against unrealistic deadlines without any fear of being reprimanded. So the crucial point is this. True lean, agile software development demands that leaders actually trust their teams. It means shifting the decision-making power away from disconnected managers and handing it directly over to the technical experts who are doing the actual coding. This autonomy leads to higher motivation, much faster problem solving, and a team that feels a deep sense of ownership over the final product. You have to remember, you're not just hiring hands to type code, you are hiring human wisdom to solve complex problems. Section 4. Building quality into code. How autonomy creates safer software. So how does this empowered mindset mechanically translate into a better product? Well, when a software team is truly empowered, they actively choose to build quality into their daily workflow rather than just waiting for a quality assurance team to find their mistakes, months later. They adopt technical practices like test-driven development, where they literally write the test for the code before they even write the code itself. They utilize continuous integration, meaning they constantly merge their work to catch conflicts early. They rely on automated testing and living documentation. All of these practices represent digital jidoka. They are automated systems combined with human intelligence that instantly stop the proverbial line if a piece of code is defective. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how an empowered team owns this entire continuous feedback loop. Plan, do, check, and act. Because they aren't just blindly following orders from the top down, they have the bandwidth and the authority to constantly evaluate their own processes. This drives Kaizen, or continuous improvement. When a bug is found, they don't just swap the bug, they fix the process that allowed the bug to exist in the first place. This right here is exactly how you achieve sustainable, compounding quality over time. Finally, Section 5, Overcoming the Chaos Myth. Discipline, not a free-for-all. Look, for a lot of leaders, especially in highly regulated fields, the idea of just empowering developers sounds absolutely terrifying. It leads to what we call the fake agile mirage. If you've ever dealt with a team that claims to be agile but tries to capture every single requirement up front, or a team where the members don't actually understand why they're working this way, well, you haven't experienced lean agile. You've experienced a mirage. Fake agile lacks the transparency, the strict open communication, and the constant reflection that real empowerment actually requires to function. But I want to reassure you that real empowerment is incredibly disciplined. In fact, it is so disciplined that proper lean agile meshes perfectly with some of the strictest compliance standards in the world. Take the medical device industry, for example. The FDA and the IEC 62304 standards require absolute rigor. By following guidelines like AAMI TIR 45, empowered lean agile teams create exact traceability and deeply documented test evidence. It isn't some Wild West free-for-all. It is a highly structured system built on mutual trust, continuous testing, and generating just enough targeted documentation exactly when it's needed. And even if your organization relies on strict traditional waterfall maturity models like CMMI, the ultimate goal is actually still exactly the same. The highest tier of CMMI, level 5, literally asks teams to focus on continuous process improvement. The only real difference is that Lean Agile builds that exact requirement into the workflow from day one, rather than treating it as some eventual afterthought. Both paths, at their peak, recognize that process improvement driven by the team is the only way to achieve true excellence. To bring this all together, let's look at this quote straight from Toyota's modern philosophy. It says, "It doesn't matter how much machines, robots, or IT excel, they can't evolve any further on their own. Only humans can implement Kaizen for the sake of evolution." We have the most advanced digital tools in human history at our fingertips today. But at the end of the day, a tool is still just a tool. It is human wisdom, human ingenuity, and human empowerment that actually drive quality forward. Which leaves us with a pretty critical question to ask ourselves about our own workplace cultures. Think about the people building your products right now. Are they just mindlessly typing out code on an invisible assembly line? Or are they truly empowered to stop the line, fix the underlying process, and take genuine pride in their craft? Because if you really want to improve your software quality, you have to start by empowering the people who build it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll leave you to think on that.